Assalamualaikum and good greetings. So today I'll be watching a video titled "Is Islam False?" Watch this! Because I'm interested just because of the title. Is Islam false? Watch this. So I will watch. So let's watch.
Now keep in mind, Muhammad did not write the Quran. It was gathered after he died, and it was put together by the third Caliph Uthman in 650 AD.
Okay, so when he said Muhammad did not write the Quran, obviously Muslim believe that. No Muslim actually believe Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually write the Quran. It's a revelation. But then he said that it was gathered, in the third caliph. Right? So that is correct if what you are referring to Quran as the hard copy, the mushaf. Muslim call it a mushaf, right? There's a difference between Quran and mushaf. What you can physically hold on to is a mushaf. Right, so if you are referring to the mushaf, yes, of course. Okay.
Can you elaborate? I brought several of our teams from our church,
Okay.
and I wanted them to see. Can you go over the differences between Christianity versus the other world religions such as Islam, Catholicism, Mormonism?
You mean
So because other than, I'm not sure whether the framing is correct if I understand it, because the difference between Christian and other world religion, Islam, Catholicism, Mormonism, because I think 4, 5, 6 years ago, I'm not sure when, is the first time ever that I have come across a Christian, and then he suddenly says Christian and Catholicism, basically Catholic, is totally two different things. And to me, from the outsider, I was shocked back then, right? What is Christianity and Catholic is two different things? I didn't know that, right? So, and then again, add to that, this is Mormonism, right? Mormon. But now, of course, after having communication or conversation online sometimes with many Christians, I do understand in terms of the different denomination or sects, or them consider it different religion altogether, some of them. Because when he said that, it bring me back to that moment where it shocked me, because normally I think just like people outside of Islam, when people say Islam, they see one big thing. When, for example, the big difference, when I do not consider Shia as the same thing as what I believe in, right? Because the belief is different, so different. So I guess from people outside of Christianity, they do not realize perhaps, it's different.
in 2 minutes?
Yes.
That's like those are semester courses.
We'll try to.
Yeah, that is not a realistic ask, right? In a question and answer, you ask to actually summarize the difference between big religions. That is interesting. Okay.
He's like some kind of radio guy behind the glass going, shorten it up, shorten it up. All right, why don't we just deal with Islam first, okay? Look, there are 3 great monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, okay? In my view, Christianity just completes Judaism. I think the Old Testament is true, and I think the New Testament is true as well, so it completes Judaism. Islam comes along, well, first of all, Muhammad is born in 570 AD. In about 610 AD, he seems to think he gets a revelation from God to say that there's only one God. And he goes to Mecca in 622, and he tries to say, in a town that had a lot of idols, because people would go to Mecca and worship these deities, he tried to go in there and say, look, there's just one God. Allah is his name. And so they threw him out. He goes up to Medina, he begins to raid Meccan caravans, and in 630 he takes Mecca by force, but he doesn't have much resistance. He dies 2 years later, probably poisoned by somebody in 632. By 638, his followers have already taken over the Holy Land, and by 732, they've streamed across northern Africa, across the Straits of Gibraltar, into Spain, and were stopped in Tours, France by Charles Martel, Charles the Hammer, that's what his name means, Martel, and he pushed them back, and eventually the Muslims retreated back over the Straits of Gibraltar, and to this day, northern Africa is largely, predominantly Muslim. Now, Muhammad, when he was on the earth, never claimed to do miracles. In fact, in the Quran, he says, I'm just a plain warner, I don't do miracles. Right. Miracles are attributed to Muhammad about 150 years later in what's called the hadith, the written traditions of what Muhammad said and did. These people were not eyewitnesses. As I say, it's about 150 years later, and some of the miracles appear to be modifications of Christian miracles, like Jesus turns water into wine, Muhammad turns water into milk.
I've never heard that before. But what he said about hadith mean that he doesn't understand what hadith at least claim to be, right? Because hadith is not something someone just suddenly claim. There's a methodology on how you evaluate the hadith, whether it is authentic or not, from a Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's a methodology in scrutinizing whether this actually reached Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? So it's not just someone. Maybe he drew parallel to the Bible, perhaps because it is written by those first people. I think they believe it as inspired by God, right? But it's not actually like hadith where there's a chain of narrator to reach Jesus, right? I don't think Bible works that way, right? It's not like whoever write it says he heard it from this guy, and that guy heard from Jesus. There's no narration, to my knowledge, right? If anyone know differently, please tell. But hadith have a very strict evaluation on that path, right? So it's not suddenly someone writes something inspired by whatever, right?
Jesus feeds 5,000, Muhammad feeds, 10 or 50,000, something like that, right? They appear to be kind of borrowed from Christianity, and even many Muslim scholars say they're legendary. So,
yeah, because those when we say the miracle or mu'jizat of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all Muslims agree that the primary mu'jizat or miracle is the Quran itself, right? So I'm not sure what he mean by this. No one sees any miracle, because the Quran itself is the miracle, and it claimed to be the miracle, and it's understood from the beginning.
I don't think there's any supernatural confirmation that Muhammad was a prophet. Okay? And the miracles attributed to him were attributed much later. Now, there seems to me an internal contradiction here for Muslims, because in Surah 568, which is a chapter in the Quran, the 68th verse, it says, O ye people of the book. Who are the people of the book? The Christians and the Jews.
Right.
You have no ground to stand on unless you stand on the law and the Gospels. In other words, the Quran is telling Christians and Jews they ought to obey the Old Testament and the New Testament. The problem is, if you obey the Old Testament and the New Testament, it contradicts with the Quran. Because in Surah 4, verse 157, it says that Jesus never died. He was taken straight to heaven, so he couldn't have resurrected from the dead, because God would never kill a prophet, according to the Quran. Now keep in mind, Muhammad did not write the Quran.
Well, he said that God will never kill a prophet according to the Quran. What is that? Where is that from? Because what does that mean even? Because all prophets die, right? Of course, the exception of Isa alayhi salam or Jesus. So what does that mean? God will never kill a prophet. And of course, when Quran mentioned about the book, it is understood that the book sent to the prophets. The Old Testament, New Testament is basically the Torah and the Injil, right? So anything that is, because how to say this, if Jesus already died, there can never be revelation after that. So if any Bible telling about Jesus died and that is being revealed after Jesus died, that is no longer a revelation to Jesus, right? So Muslim will never believe that that is part of the book that Christians should go back on, right?
It was gathered after he died, and it was put together by the third Caliph Uthman in 650 AD. Okay? There's no miraculous confirmation that Muhammad was a prophet. So it's written 600 years after the events of Christianity. Why would we take a document written 600 years later to tell us what happened to Jesus when we have eyewitness testimony of what happened to Jesus?
Right.
So this is why I don't think Islam is the true world religion. Now, I'm not saying everything Islam teaches is false. That's not the case. I just think where it differs from Christianity, it's false.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, at least we can understand his argument, despite the testimony, etc. Is you can argue the validity, etc. and who testify to that. Okay, to yeah. Of course, to be fair, in whatever minutes he tried to answer this one, you cannot elaborate everything, right? So we cannot scrutinize that as much. So we'll leave it there.
So that's the other great competitor to Christianity is Islam. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, most Muslims would agree with the first 3 points: truth, God, miracles. Where they're going to have a problem with is the New Testament. So that's where Christians and Muslims separate with regard, one place they separate with regard to what happened to Jesus.
Yeah. But of course, the issue when someone brings out so-called, when the Quran says about the past, but they want to hold on to some so-called testimony from the past, right? Of course, any of those books, right, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran, claim something about the far event in the past, right, that did not happen in the time of Jesus or Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, etc. It is beyond that, right? What happened to Adam, etc. So what then? Because just simply because it's easy to make it as if it is a solid foundation to say that, well, I have the what was said 600 years before, why should I believe this one, right? So the same can be said about other things, right? For example, someone says that they find a manuscript about something that happened much earlier, or because I think the similarity between Islam, Christianity and Judaism is that we believe in creation of mankind. So maybe not account of someone says something, but someone says that this happened, whatever, evolution, etc., in the far past, right? So what would that be then? Because if you just say that whatever we can find earlier should be more truthful than what comes later, really? Because if whatever story that can come from the primary source, so-called primary source from the earlier stories, is distorted and distorted and distorted until it reach us, and then what comes later is actually from the creator. That would be more true, right? Because the creator will know exactly what happened, and then it reveal it back again now, for example, now or whatever in time in human history. So I do not think that just saying something that comes earlier for sure is more true than what comes later, especially when the later one claim to be directly sent down from the creator, right? So if it is from the creator, regardless of whether it comes earlier or later, it will be the truth, right? And whatever else might be distorted from the truth, right? So anyway, but of course I'm not argue anything here, because this is just a 2-minute 3 minutes response he have for that guy who asked a question, which is of course unfair to expect a well defined answer, in depth, whatever, right? But anyway, this is interesting, and to say the least, I think, who is this guy? I'm not familiar with this, but he is at least very well articulated in terms of response, giving response to a spontaneous, meaning to a giving response, what do you call it, meaning at that moment when the question is asked, right? So of course I do not have that ability. Normally when I do reaction, people do not understand, because when I respond or react there and then, I cannot, arrange my points so that people can easily understand. That's my weakness, unfortunately. Anyway, interesting nevertheless, but that's it for today, inshallah. I guess see you next time.